Hey everyone, it's Jack from WhatCulture.com and I'm here with another dose, a lethal injection of news this week on the fast count. Jay Lethal doesn't feature at all. I'm not sure why I said that, but are you ready for some WWE news, some non-WWE news, and of course, my infamous Wrestler of the Week. Let's not waste any more time, let's get straight into it. This is the fast count. First, let's start off with all of this week's WWE news, and the big news this week is that, potentially, an old favourite from the Ruthless Aggression era could be making his return to WWE. That's right, big Shelton Benjamin. I've heard he's actually a big fan of Plumpy, which is nonsense in my opinion, but big Shelton Benjamin is apparently looking to return to WWE. Dave Meltzer has denied that a contract has been signed, but it seems from all the stories flying around on the internet that some sort of talks are underway. You might remember that, I think last year, or was it even the year before? I think it was just last year. No, whenever the brand split was that was a year ago. I'm losing my mind. Last year, when it was the draft, Shelton Benjamin was reportedly in talks to return to WWE to bolster their thinning rosters when the brand split happened. Unfortunately, he then got injured and didn't return. So it makes perfect sense that now he's recovered and is reportedly back in ring shape, that Shelton Benjamin could well find himself onto one of the two rosters in the very near future. Very exciting. One of the most underrated, in my opinion, athletes in WWE history. Really good, and I hope that it happens. The first set of tapings for the Mae Young Classic happened last night, and I won't be spoiling any of the results, don't worry, because I haven't looked at them myself. I want to keep them a secret. But it featured some big names, some of whom you may be familiar with if you're a fan of indie wrestling in general. Specifically some guys, and they said some girls who've appeared in WCPW, such as Piper Niven or Viper, Kaylee Ray, who is the current WCPW Women's Champion. Bit weird that she's in the tournament. Tessa Blanchard. Who else is in there? Serena Deeb is in there. You may remember her as the girl in the Straight Edge Society. Really good, really charismatic. I'm not too sure how she is in the ring actually, but hopefully she's really good. And of course, one of my favourite women's wrestlers in the world, Candice LeRae. But the biggest name of all is potentially Kairi Sane, as she's now called, or Kairi Hojo, the sort of leading light of stardom alongside Io Shirai, who is now injured. But Kairi is like one of the leading lights of women's wrestling in the world today, throws a beautiful elbow drop, hopefully they let her do it, and apparently she should just be an absolute killer. I'm not too familiar with her, but hopefully that's what this tournament's all about, getting to know new women in the world of wrestling and seeing what they bring to the table. And finally, if we just go back to the Wrestling Observer newsletter for just a second, Meltzer has reported apparently, and to be honest, these sort of stories seem a bit salacious, but I know that people like them, so I guess I should report on it. It is probably big and relevant news given the recent split that these two have undergone. Enzo and Cass apparently have quite a lot of heat backstage. This stems from an incident reportedly on a recent kind of bus journey, I think, or coach journey, on the tour bus, where Roman Reigns kicked Enzo off the bus, and he was then kicked out of the locker room later on. He was given like the Miz treatment, where he couldn't get changed with the rest of the boys and stuff like that. It all sounds a bit sinister and old school, but we don't know what Enzo did. There are no details on that. Reportedly also, Cass has some heat for his outspoken support of Donald Trump. Another small addition to this story as well, Enzo is apparently legitimately unhappy with the split between himself and Cass, because he hasn't really been portrayed as a legitimate, wrestler, really, if we're being brutally honest, especially in singles competition. We've come to expect that Enzo is the weak link in the tag division and will always get destroyed, and you can't really see things panning out much better for him as a singles competitor, unless he becomes like a manager or something. But for the near future at least, it's looking kind of bleak for him, and apparently he has realised this as well in real life and has been quite unhappy about it. And now it's time for all the news elsewhere in the world of professional wrestling. I know I normally go a bit crazy when I do the intro to this one, but the first topic we're going to talk about is, I think you all know what it is. It's a very serious one, and I wasn't even sure whether to cover it because our first item is about Paige and Alberto El Patron. Now this is awkward because legally I can only report the facts. Obviously I don't want to be accused of making some sort of claim that hasn't been proven. Equally, I've also met both of them, which puts me in a bit of a tricky situation. I'm not saying they like remember me or anything, but the fact that I've been there, seen them face to face, makes this a little bit weird. El Patron was the first wrestler I ever interviewed, and while I was interviewing him, Paige was like behind the camera watching as well. It was a very surreal situation. So all I can report are the facts. Please don't accuse me of supporting one way or another or anything. Just, you know what I mean? I'm just going to give you the facts. So last Sunday there was an incident at an airport where there was a very public falling out between El Patron and Paige. She released two conflicting statements on social media which didn't really match up with each other. In one she said that someone threw a glass of water or alcohol over El Patron. In the other one she said that it was her who did it, but they got annoyed at a fan who followed them or something. It's all very sketchy, but then TMZ released an audio tape of the incident obtained by that fan, in which both stories were again contradicted by this audio recording, in which it seemed a lot more kind of what everyone expected, you know, a very public falling out between Alberto and Paige aimed at each other. Since then, and this is where it gets very serious and a bit dark, Alberto has since been suspended by GFW, or Impact Wrestling as we now sort of, you know, whichever name they go by now, and Paige's brother, Zach Bevis, has released a statement on Facebook in which he has openly accused El Patron of domestic abuse. So yeah, a very serious news piece there, and it's, you know, it's opened all sorts of discussions online which I don't really want to get into, because unfortunately, when sort of incidents like this are reported online, we do get instances of people leaping to conclusions on one side. We also get on the other side instances of, you know, victim blaming, and it's all very, it's better just to wait until the facts are out there before, you know, before making a snap sort of rash statement on it. Now it's time to get away from that, thankfully, into a slightly more light-hearted storyline, although not really if you're one of the parties involved. This involves the Broken Gimmick and who owns it. Yes, it's another installment in that wacky saga that we all know and love. So you may have seen that at Great Balls of Fire and on the subsequent Monday Night Raw, the Hardy Boys were being very, very ostensibly deletey or broken. They led the crowd in a number of delete chants at Great Balls of Fire. They cut a promo the next night where they referred to themselves as broken and said words like obsolete and everything that hints at that angle and that gimmick. And since then, Jeff Jarrett has come out and said, look, there is no agreement in place for them to use that gimmick. To which Matt Hardy's wife responded, Rebby Hardy, saying Jeff Jarrett is absolutely a liar and that, you know, it'll all come out and we'll see what the truth really is. So the way it looks to me from an outside perspective is that the Hardys are going to eventually be allowed to use it, because otherwise surely there's no way WWE would allow them to tease the gimmick and the character so overtly, particularly on a product as scripted as WWE programming. And finally, in some actual news featuring some actual wrestling in an actual wrestling ring, at the last PWG show in California, Chuck Taylor, who is famed for his hilarious tweets and social media antics and stuff like that, and just generally seems a very funny and down-to-earth guy in the wrestling business. He finally won the big one, the PWG Championship from Zack Sabre Jr. in a match which apparently went 30 minutes or so. I caught snippets of it, didn't quite see the whole thing, but it featured like a spot where Zack had Chuck in one of his devious sort of arm bars, and then Chuck was about to break the rope, make the rope break, but then Zack forced the ring crew to remove the bottom rope. Like genius heel work and all that sort of stuff. But eventually Taylor got the big feel-good win after thumbtacks were involved as well. They went all out for this one. It's a big sort of cathartic moment for Chuck. He's kind of been regarded as a comedy guy for a lot, and this is a big step in his career. And for Zack, it's the latest installment in an absolutely stellar year for the Brit as well. So now it's time for and here we go. Phil has promised me that he's got something good prepared for this one. It's time for my Wrestler of the Week.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O.
Are you sure about that?
Now, my Wrestler of the Week, I thought about a few options for this. I thought about Samoa Joe for his excellent showing at Great Balls of Fire, but then he did lose. I thought about Brock Lesnar because he retained the title in a really exciting, short match, but really exciting. But then again, the match was a short one, and it didn't deviate too much from the typical Brock Lesnar formula. No, instead, I've given it to, not Chuck Taylor, who of course won the PWG Championship last weekend, but Zack Sabre Jr. Now, I don't think I've given Zack Sabre Jr. Wrestler of the Week honours yet, but I have given it before to some big figures on the British wrestling scene, not necessarily Brits themselves like Travis Banks, sometimes Brits themselves like Will Ospreay. But in this case, I'm going to give it to Zack Sabre Jr. Again, I must confess I haven't watched the whole match, but by the sounds of it, Zack's heel antics in that match were top notch from everyone I've talked to about it. They've said that, and from the reports I've also read online, they've said that Zack was brilliant, technical wizardry as always, and also that brilliant sounding spot where he forced the ring crew to remove the bottom rope. It was an ODQ match, so he could do that, I guess. But it sounds really good. I'm definitely gonna have to try and check it out when it gets released. And you know, I guess the rest of the week isn't always the one who comes out on top. Chuck Taylor won and apparently put in a very good performance, but just by the sounds of it, this is the end of a very exciting reign for Zack. He still has the other 2 belts, and generally I just think I've kind of undersold how well Zack's been this year. He's not caught the headlines as much as someone like Ospreay or Okada or Omega, but he's been having a very, very good year as well. So Zack Sabre Jr. is my rest of the week, and I'll concede that it's long overdue. So that's all for this week on the Fast Count. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from WhatCulture.com. Currently alone in the studio, which is a bit creepy, but I will shout out Phil because he will be editing this video, or Hobo Joe, as we know and love. Once again, thanks for watching. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and I'll see you soon. Hello, it's Jack here, lead singer of acclaimed covers band American Rachel. I did not write this script, and I'm here to test your wrestling knowledge today. Are you ready? Guess the theme tune that I'm about to hum. And so on and so on. Did you get it? Oh, cool. Sorry, D. For those of you who didn't get it, it was the Nexus's theme tune. We are one. We are one. We are one. We are one. For more theme tunes and awesome fun too, buy the new WhatCulture Wrestling Trivia game, available at shop.whatculture.com.